What is up? Welcome to Build, man. I'm your host, Matt Forte, and we are here live. Yes, you are correct. Yes, woo indeed. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Black Panther is almost here, my friends. Come on. Oh, man. We are less than a week away before one of the most highly anticipated films of the year, man, maybe even the last decade, is released. And that's not hyperbole. That's not me hyping. It's already breaking records. Advanced ticket sales are through the roof. A couple of weeks ago, we all remember people finally got to see it. The internet didn't know what to do with itself. Everybody went crazy when they saw this movie. All right, it's insane. Now, here is a little secret that I haven't really been telling a lot of folks around here. I got to see it too. And, well, hold up. You booed? Here's the thing, I get it, but I'm here to tell you, man, they're all right. They're absolutely right. This movie is amazing. And if you're looking for someone to tamper expectations, then look away because, while I get it, it is in fact my job to come out here and tell you how much I loved a particular thing. It's never been easier than right now, friends, all right? I'm telling you that. And I mean that sincerely. Now, all that being said, my next guest is a Tony Award-nominated playwright and actress who I'm sure we've all grown accustomed to seeing engage in general acts of badassery on The Walking Dead. But I assure you, nothing has prepared you for her performance as Okoye, head of T'Challa's all-women special forces, the Dora Milaje. Folks, Danai Gurira is here. How about that? Come on, make some noise. We're excited, all right? So we're going to bring her out in a second. But before we do, for the 3 people left on Earth that still haven't seen it, we're going to run the trailer for Black Panther. So, Luke, let's go ahead and run that clip.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go.
We are home. My son, it is your time.
Show me my respect and bow down.
You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be. Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own ya. We own ya. We only getting started now. Cause we own ya. Everybody think they know me now. Cause we own ya. You and I'm a homie now. Cause we own ya.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out.
Wakanda forever!
The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. Danai Gurira right here, please. Please. Oh, Danai, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for carving out some time to come hang out with us. Congratulations on this phenomenal film.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to talk to you all about it and get into Okoye and talk about how you guys brought that character to life. But before we do any of that, it's very important to me. How are you?
Thank you. That's very sweet. I'm great. I'm really, really great. I'm really excited to be able to promote this film. I'm really excited about it. It makes me happy. It makes me proud. I haven't really seen that trailer before. I love the way that The Revolution Will Be Live was playing underneath that. That's just mad cool, man. I mean, there's just so many elements to this film that really thrill me. I mean, the fact that I'm in it is kind of a bonus. I'm just so excited it exists. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much about it that excites me.
Absolutely. Well, that's, you know, I'm curious about, you're talking about, you're very proud to be doing this. Press typically can be exhausting, any type of press, especially like on a Marvel circuit, because these movies are global, they're massive, right? And this is not your first rodeo. You're on one of the biggest television shows in the world. You're a Tony Award nominated playwright. You know, you've done this before. Has it felt different this go around for this particular project?
I mean, it's Marvel, y'all. Like, it's on another scale. It's on it's epic, you know, and I'm so excited to do it because I'm getting to promote an African story on a Marvel Disney scale, and that's kind of a dream come true sort of a thing for me, you know.
Well, that's exactly what I want to tap into. One of the things that I truly loved about this movie, and I think that audiences are resonating with and like really latching onto, is that, okay, as a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, right, you're 18 deep, so you go in as a fan of that and you go, what are they going to show me that I haven't seen, right? And they succeed at that not only as a Marvel film, but like as a film. We've never been immersed in African culture, celebrated African culture the way this film does, and it does it beautifully. Here's my question. Was that palpable on set? Could you feel that while you were making it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we were all there to do that, you know. I mean, when I remember I was actually, my play Eclipsed it was opening night, and we were leaving the party, and my manager was like, so I have an offer here from Marvel for, I was like, what you talking about, April? This ain't April, but it feels like April Fool's. Like, I was like, you tripping. But, you know, that it was real. And I sat down with Ryan, and when he talked about his vision for this world and his vision for my character and how the elements he was going to pull from, for me, it's very important as a playwright, you know, as an African woman, it's very important that the characters, the stories told about Africa are told really authentically, really with great authenticity and accessibility, but also just very rich and complex, because that's the world I know of the continent. But it gets so distorted when it's put on screen 99% of the time. So I was very particular about what's the vision, and his, though I loved Ryan and deeply respected him, I really wanted to know what the angle was, and it was a very rich tapestry that he shared with me that just thrilled me. I remember leaving, I don't know if it was Marvel or Disney, but I remember leaving just like, that's how discombobulated I was. I didn't know where I was.
I don't know where I was.
It was like a childlike glee in me that this was actually being made, you know? And so it really did feel like we went in there and he got a cast. I mean, this amazing group of people.
Unbelievable.
I mean, who are, I can now, you know, I'm thankful to call family now. You know, we all went there ready to collaborate and fully participate. And we were all up in it, you know, like the beauty of Ryan and of Marvel, you know, Nate Moore, who is the executive producer from Marvel on set with us every minute, you know, is that they were really willing and ready to collaborate and hear our thoughts and ideas. You know, we were able to come in and say, we want to say this in Xhosa now. I've learned this in Xhosa, can I say it in Xhosa? You know, and we were like ready to just go in and bring as much Africa to the table as possible, and they were all in to do it. So definitely it felt like something that had never been done before.
And the film feels like that level of passion was brought to the table. You know, you mentioned how important it was to you that you understood the full scope of the vision, that the vision was in alignment with your hopes for the project. And then you mentioned this tapestry that I showed you. Is there a thing in particular, if you will, a thread from that tapestry that kind of hooked into you and you went, okay, I see that. I think I know what he's going for, and this is going to be something special?
Oh yeah, there were several things. I mean, I can't go into too much because y'all ain't seen it yet. But you know, just the vision he had for my character, the vision he had for, you know, the use of sound, of music, the vision he had for the use of language. There were so many things that were very, very rich and powerful to me, and like the angle he was taking of pulling in arguments, and conversations, and themes that have never been given scale. But are fascinating and important and very universal while they're very culturally specific. So all those things, when he shared all the thing he was going for, and as a storyteller, you know, I look for that. I look for that in a filmmaker or whoever's in charge of the story's vision. Like, what are they going for? What are the themes they want to hash out? And are they connected to something really that they're deeply anchored in? And of course, Ryan would be. But when I heard the arguments he was trying to go into around the African and African American experience and all these different things, I was like, this is no one. And then the angle he was taking with women, my character being the general of the Wakandan forces, which isn't exactly the same as in the comic books. So she's the head of the Dormalaje, but in our version, she's the head of the Wakandan forces as well. And just that element of really empowering the female characters. Of course, Lupita's astounding character, Nakia as well, and Shuri, amazing, Letitia Wright. There was just such an amazing, and of course, the queen herself in every way, Ms. Angela Bachelet. So it was just such amazing angles he was taking with the women as well, which was very important to me.
Yeah. You touched on a solid point, which is nobody's had an opportunity to see the film yet, so we can't spoil it. We can't spoil anything.
For y'all.
So let's try to talk about what we can talk about. You mentioned how all of these characters, every angle that he's taking is a special and deep angle, and it's absolutely right. It's another thing that I think people are really acknowledging and latching onto, which is the complexity of the characters and the depth of every character. You know who they are, you know what they want and why they are the way they are. You even know why they fight the way they do. There's so much there. Was there a lot of mythology for you to absorb going in once you were officially on board for this? And can that be overwhelming, to have all of this mythology and backstory and all of this depth? Or do you welcome that?
I welcome that.
Thrive there.
I thrive. That's exactly where I thrive, especially when it's I really enjoy. I'm a very big African enthusiast, so the idea of getting to celebrate Africa by going into the specifics of why these people do what they do, and it's all rooted in African tradition, and then going into specifics of learning Xhosa and learning it's different. Zimbabwe and South Africa are next door to each other, and I'm Zimbabwean. I'm American. I'm Zamerican, but I was raised in Zimbabwe, so that there's a deep proximity, but these languages are completely different. They're the same as French and English. That's they're both the same language group, but that's about it. Yeah. So I had to really delve into that, learning this character's language, how she speaks, how that's her mother tongue, and then learning her connection with the spear. But it was really cool. I mean, they're just learning about Southern African culture to some extent, history. The spear is a very specifically connected to Southern Africa in many ways. Shaka Zulu is right there next. That was the Zulu are right next to Zimbabwe, and studying that, there was a lot of stuff I had to delve across and find how empowered she would be with being an expert at this African weaponry, but it's also African weaponry made of some very special stuff, which we won't go into.
No, we can't.
But it was really, really cool. And then just all of the different angles, of course, Ruth Carter took with these amazing costumes, learning where all that came from. Yeah. My character, her army has, very particular armor, but it's pulling from really cool places like the Maasai, who are warriors, so the red, and of course the rings around the necks, and the sort of hide that's in her skirt, that's very South African. So they're beautiful. I loved it. I mean, I loved it.
Can we actually have, you have a character, Okoye has a character poster, which is absolutely stunning. If we could bring that up in a second. Look at this. This is so awesome. I hope, does it make you uncomfortable, by the way, to have a giant picture of yourself next to yourself? Is that, I didn't think that till right now.
I don't know, maybe this makes me weird, but no.
No, okay, cool. Well, it shouldn't, honestly, because this is so awesome. And we touched on the fashion of those things, the nature of the costume. There is a particular iconic look, at the risk of asking something silly or superficial, but based on your performances alone, you don't strike me as a person who's afraid of much anything. You strike me as a very fearless person. But I think anybody, anywhere.
Is anyone really fearless?
Well, right, because I would say, and maybe this is just a personal thing, I'm very scared of the idea of having to shave my head for anything.
Why?
I don't know. I don't think that I
Let's
could.
try right now.
You want to? Okay, can we?
We'll do it right now, everybody.
This is the only context within which I would do this. So if we get a razor, we'll...
Oh my God, get a razor. Oh no, actually, my barber's here. Look at this.
No way.
He's got his, he's here.
Round of applause for that, because that
Where is he?
That
Where's
is
Vernon
gorgeous.
Scott?
Yeah. Well, here's what I wanted to ask you, this is an iconic look. Going into this, how did you feel about having to shave your head? How did you feel about having to take that leap? And did it draw you closer to Okoye by doing that transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I loved that this was the vision that that Ryan had. It's very connected to, there are many, of course, this comic book has been around since the 60s, which is why I love how the Revolution Will Not Be Televised is playing in the background of that trailer. I think it's really dope. But the idea of this look came from the most recent rendition of the Dora Milaje, which is actually from Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he has them bald with these really cool tattoos, different from ours, but really cool ones on their faces and on their heads. So Ryan was pulling from there, and I loved it. I loved it. In theory.
Asterisk, side note.
Then came the day, in pre-production. I mean, literally, me and Lupita and Chadwick and Michael had been working beforehand. It was just been the four of us training, and then everyone else came after Thanksgiving. And the day after Thanksgiving, they were like, "So we're gonna shave your head tomorrow?" And I'm like, whoa. I thought I had till January. I thought I had some time, and I had a little bit of a fro going on. I was digging my little fro. So it was interesting. I mean, they took me down to dolphin smooth bald, and that was like okay. It was new. It was really new. It's so different from just having a low cut to just being like your forehead and your head, there's no difference. You know what I mean? That's just it's a different thing. It's a different thing.
It's just uncharted territory. This is why I'm afraid of it.
It was. But actually, after a while, and day after day, my army would come in. Another one had bitten the dust, had been shaved down, and it was it really got to a really cool place. It really became awesome and subversive in a feminine way. It was really we were feminine and we were bald. You know what I mean? And it was really cool. It was a real subversive suggestion of this nation and how we see beauty. And these are the most revered, women in the country. And this is how we see beauty, And I love that there was this really beautiful because we all had a red lip and a big lash and bald heads, you know what I mean? And I love that, that this combination for these women of all the characters really of fierceness and femininity was just this beautiful blend that was unquestioned.
For sure. No, I think, not that I have my fingers on the pulse of popular culture here, but I feel like the Dora Milaje are going to do for women what Michael Jordan did for bald dudes back in the 90s, where wasn't the first person to do it, was the coolest person to do it.
Right,
and everybody was like, man, that is beautiful, that is awesome, that is badass.
Right.
It's just because you're right, you're watching the movie, and it is such an iconic image, such a look. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that story.
Of course.
And sharing that moment. I was telling you this a little bit backstage, and I'll say it out now. At the end of the movie, no spoilers, I swear, okay? At the credits, okay? We all know how credits work. And I'm not talking about the after credit sequence either or anything like that, I'm not saying anything about any of that stuff. I'm saying when the names come up of the people in the film and who they portrayed, Chadwick comes up, people applaud, people go nuts, Michael B., there we are, we're cheering. Everybody comes up, right? But then you come up and your character comes up and the theater went nuts. People went bananas. They were standing ovation at a movie, at a press
Those are all my relatives.
Yeah.
Planted them. I'm broke now. They all wanted their checks.
Worth it. It was a very impactful
Go
moment.
hang out with the press.
Money well spent.
And when I come up, y'all, you know what to do.
Here's the deal. Here's why I tell you. Here's why I bring it up, because it wasn't limited to that room. If you look at a lot of the responses on Twitter, there's something about Okoye that people are really into and really digging and love and calling for a spinoff and all this stuff. What do you think it is about her character, about your character, that people are in love with, that it's standing out in this amazing cast where everyone stands out?
Yeah, everyone does stand out. That's why I really don't know. I mean, really, I'm so in awe of my castmates, and I was before, and I am when I watched the movie. I've seen it twice now, and I just watched their work, and I'm just floored. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's, everyone has characters that they really gravitate towards. I think the only thing I can say about Ms. Okoye here is I love what the Marvel or Disney folks came up with here with her nation's honor, because that is the core of who she is that I loved about her, which is that it was all about Wakanda's honor. And I don't know if I've seen a female character like that in that way, and I loved that, and that was very much something designed by Mr. Coogler, and something that I latched onto because I'm a woman who is, I'm from the West, I'm from the United States, and I'm from Zimbabwe, and I've always just had a passion around telling African people stories and giving them real room on the world global stage to be fully dimensional, but also because I don't know, the idea of a Wakanda is it fills me with a lot of hope and a lot of passion, because the idea of a nation that was, I don't think this is a spoiler, the idea of a nation like Wakanda that was never colonized and then it advanced itself to becoming the most technologically advanced nation on the globe. And the idea that my job is to protect that and to retain the sovereignty and the security and the longevity of that my foremothers and forefathers put forth. I mean, that got me. So that just connected me so deeply to her.
Well, I'm getting the signal. We're going to turn it over to audience in a second, but I cannot say it enough. Congratulations and thank you for this film. It is a phenomenal film. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Everyone's going to enjoy it. Okay. Now, before we go to audience, I know you can't say anything, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say these words to you and pose this question. Infinity War is right around the corner, all right? And there's mumblings all around. You can't say a word. No, but
okay,
it's on your IMDb. We've seen you in the trailer, so we know that much.
Yes.
So we know you had to work on it.
Yes.
You can't say what you did.
No.
Let me try this.
Okay.
Did you go right from one set to the other? Did you have to shift gears from Ryan to Russo's? And was that a big adjustment? Or can you not even talk about that yet?
No, I guess I can say this. I mean, there was a space of time between, it wasn't a lot, really. I finished Black Panther in April. I went to Avengers in May. Okay. So, yeah, it really wasn't a lot of time. It was a few weeks. But so yeah, I was still very, I was still very in Wakanda in my spirit, my soul, and my mind, and in Okoye. So it wasn't a quick, it wasn't a hard turn. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was what I realized stepping into Avengers world is that my character is certainly a part of a universe. Yes. And that was really exciting. When suddenly you're like, oh, there's Chris Evans, there's Scarlett Johansson, there's Mark Ruffalo, and they're all like, hey, they're all chilling on the set with you, and you're about to shoot something together, So that was pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing. Well, thank you for entertaining the idea of talking about that movie that nobody can talk about yet.
Yes. I'm very good at saying nothing.
Yeah, you are.
I've been in The Walking Dead for 8 years. I know how to say nothing. I should run for office, right? I can artfully say nothing.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys, it's your turn. We've got some microphones out there. The first one appears to be right here in the front.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Do you want to know how would you compare the physical demands of you in Black Panther to the physical demand of Michonne in The Walking Dead?
There were some absolute similarities. They both are far more agile than I am. So they both freak me out, in that regard. I'm like, okay, the description of Okoye before I even started shooting was she is second only to the Panther himself as being the best fighter in Wakanda. And I was like, oh, great. Wonderful. So, it was, but, I loved it. I loved cracking into who she was. And 99.9% of what you see on the screen is me. And I loved that. I loved cracking into her because because it's the same thing with Michonne. You have to get to know her weaponry and how she moves with it until it comes to a point where it's like a part of your body and you reach for it, like reaching for that sword behind my back, or she's reaching for it in a very different way and she's moving like it's 6 feet long and it doesn't have a blade. So there are times they have similar movements and then there's a similarity, it just ends. And I was like, oh yeah, this one doesn't do that. And so initially it was tricky and I was dropping it a lot. And the people living underneath me in my condo were like knocking on the door like, what are you doing? And I was like, listen, when you stop hearing that, it's good. I'm just working on it. When you stop, I don't want to drop it. Just know that. But like once I got to the point where I could really, it takes a lot. It's grueling. It's grueling. I mean, it's grueling training. It's a lot of hours. And then you start to break into finding your character in her way of combat. And her way of combat is traditional. She's a traditionalist. She's doing it the way her foremothers designed it for this army generations ago. And finding that, you find the pride in it, you find the mover, the movement in it that's kind of like a dancer that, that Ryan was very particular about for the Dora. And then you start to find your character in how she lives in that. And so it's a very grueling process, and then it's really awesome, and you're like, oh, there she is, and then you enjoy it. But they both demanded that of me, and there's no shortcuts. Like I couldn't be like, oh, I got Michonne, so now I got Okoye. Like no, it was a whole new process. It was a whole new birthing of another chick.
What's the kind of clearance like in your condo if you're going to be working with this weapon? Like, how many couches are you moving out of the way?
I know. I had to move a lot of stuff out of the way. I almost took out my TV a few times. It was a lot. It was a lot. But I was like, yeah, my dining room table was scrunched in the corner.
Pretty amazing. Are there any videos that'll never see the light of day that you did? So you like a golfer watches their swing. Did you watch yourself with the weapon and
Yeah. I have tons of videos on my computer. Don't hack me. Tons, because I would have they would record my training sessions, and then I take them home. That's how I learn. And I watch how I was doing it versus how the astounding Micah, who was training me, was doing it. I was like, how do I do it more like him? But when I'm at home and I'm alone, I'm more able to really absorb it. Sometimes it's like a lot going on. You don't absorb it as much.
Dumb question. What do you do with those skills once you're out off the project? You're out in the wild now, and you know you're capable of this. Do you ever find yourself waiting on a really long line that's not moving? It's like, if they only knew. Just take all of them out right now. It's like, what do you...
No. Now and then. No.
Beautiful. We've got some more questions. The next one's right here.
Hi. I just wanted to say I'm already inspired and empowered by you, and I haven't even seen the movie, but just from all your roles in general. And I really want to know, I wanted to know in particular with Black Panther, how has it, if it has, shaped and kind of molded your idea of blackness, really?
It's a very exciting thing. I mean, really, it's... to me, it's more celebrated it. You know what I mean? I think there's some really core arguments and themes in the movie that I can't get into. You'll see on Friday, because I know you're going on Friday, right? Yeah. So there's some really specific things that I think it's so important to have the conversation around, and the sort of the connections globally, things like that. There's some really important themes in there. But I mean, honestly, I've always been a bit of a Pan-Africanist, and I think there's something really beautifully celebrated about in this movie in a context I could never have imagined that brings out really strong Pan-African themes that I'm really excited for people of African descent to experience, but also for the world to experience, because I think our stories are mystified or marginalized a lot, and now they're the center stage. So I'm excited about the global exposure that the African and those of African descent are about to get. And I'm excited that sets a precedent that I do hope and pray we never go back on.
That's great. Thank you for that question. We have time for a few more. I'm seeing two more. Next one's going to be right here.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What I wanted to ask you was about, you said as a playwright and an African woman, you promote stories about African people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very famous British stage actor, Lucien Samati.
Say that again?
Lucien Samati.
Well, that's one of my besties.
Oh.
I was just with him 2 days ago in London.
Okay.
I was just with him. I just watched him in Amadeus, not last night, but the night before.
At the National Theatre?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just came from London
okay.
yesterday. No, I grew up with him in Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay.
That's my brother. But carry on.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, so what I was going to ask you that. So Lucien set up a company, theatre company, Over the Edge. In Zimbabwe.
Those are my boys. Yeah.
Oh, so
Craig, he came and saw Black Panther in London, and Shaheen, who passed, and Adam Neal and Kevin Hansen. Those are my boys.
What was your backup question?
What's your question?
No, the question. Okay, you totally ruined my question. No, the question I was going to ask was, What was it like working for Over the Edge Productions in Zimbabwe, and how did that influence your sort of writing when you came back to the US to promote African storytelling?
It's a great question because actually I worked with them a little bit. I was there. I was like always working with them, but their core group was the boys, and they were like my besties and my big brothers. They still are, and they were my partners in crime growing up in Zim. And my oldest friends. So one thing that I did do when I was in college here in the United States, I was in my senior year at a college called McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is very big about international students and has the largest proportion of international students according to its population. And they are very big about international culture. So I don't even know how I did it, but I figured out how to get them to bring Over the Edge to my college. And perform their play Born African and one of their other pieces, which I can't remember the name of. And I remember sitting with Weena in Lucian, as the Brits called him. His African name is Weena. And I remember sitting with him in my college, dilapidated apartment, and saying, how did you guys make that? And he said, we just played and workshopped and played and workshopped, and then we edited out what didn't work, and then we pieced it together. And that's basically how I created my first piece of work. So I remember that conversation with Lucien sort of sprouted me into figuring out a way into how I started to create my first plays. So yeah, I kind of owe him a lot. But yeah, that's funny you should mention them. I was just with them in Europe. That's funny.
So cool. Thank you for that. I believe we have one more question. It's going to come from right here.
Hi. So I can't wait to see this movie. I've been reading Black Panther since I was young. One of the best things about the promotion for this movie was the world premiere, seeing the pictures off the internet. Your outfit was amazing. Everybody's outfit was amazing. So I wanted to know, how did it feel going to that premiere where it looked like a fashion show opposed to this big event that was this movie's release?
Well, yeah, it's something that I think Chadwick has said the best, which is it feels like this is a bit of a movement. You know what I mean? It's bigger than us, and I love being a part of things that are much bigger than myself. And I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about how folks are taking something and making it their own and expressing things they might not often get to express or not have felt the space or the permission to express. And so that to me is so exciting. From the minute this film started to get any sort of publicity or it was known that it was coming out or people saw the trailer, I mean, there's just been a movement happening amongst folks where people are embracing and celebrating parts of themselves that they don't always get to do. The idea that we're all royalty, or the idea that, I come from greatness, or the idea that, I want to express my African roots if that's what you are. Or I've talked to people of many ethnicities who feel that excitement and exuberance around this and the expression that it gives them about how they can celebrate themselves, or things that, we can get ironed out a lot. We've been in a world a lot where the thrust of what we see in terms of superheroes or in terms of this type of epic imagery comes from one perspective. And I think the idea that now it's being celebrated from this perspective is something that many people, black, white, everybody, actually were kind of yearning for. That's the only way I can interpret it. And so the idea of that night was just astounding. It was astounding, and it was really special. It was very similar just now in London. People were out, and my friends, Over the Edge guy Craig Peter and his wife Diana, who met at McAllister. I introduced them. Now they're married. I always say that. I'm like, y'all know you're together because of me. Anyway, so they were they flew in from France for the premiere in London, and they were like, oh, what are we wearing? What should we wear? We're trying to figure out a reference. We're trying to. I was like, dude, they were like stressing like African, but how African? And I'm like, dude, do you? But it was very important to him, and he came in a beautiful beautiful African attire. But it was very important to people, that they come and they celebrate, this thing. And so to me, it was like, you just know this is bigger than all of us. This is something people have been yearning for, something that allows people to break out and celebrate things that have been marginalized for no apparent reason. And it's the world is ready to discard that and put on a new garb. So I thought it was awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that question. And what a perfect way to wrap things up, and what a perfect note to end on. You are 100% correct. The world is yearning for this type of story, for this type of film, for this level of artistry. It is fantastic. I cannot say enough nice things about it. I cannot thank you enough for it, and I can't congratulate you enough. Where are you heading to next? Where are you running off to?
I have no idea. I go where I'm told. I think I'm doing a Twitter live chat next.
Maybe. All
Something
right.
like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. Black Panther is this week, the 16th, everybody, as if I need to tell you. Danai Gurira, make some noise. Put your hands together. Come on.